So, how can we own our own emotional response? How can we?
It's about it's about listening to yourself. And like self-talk is really good. Speaking to yourself, asking yourself those questions. Why am I feeling this way?
And
Instead of
being lots of self-care as well. We have to be compassionate to ourselves, because for us to look at why someone might be annoying us or frustrating us, we really have to look at our part in it, or
exactly.
what thing from our past is this stirring up that we're choosing to just ignore.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And it's recognizing. That's the first step, recognizing I'm frustrated or I'm triggered. Some people don't use the language triggered. People might not, it might not particularly be in their vocabulary. But frustrated is, I'm feeling, you feeling frustrated. I'm getting frustrated with this. You know, sometimes you feel maybe you are trying to assert a boundary and you feel like the other person is just not hearing what you're saying. And that's the point where we can lose it and we can, I mentioned difficult parents, noisy classrooms. So there's some things in schools. So how can we own our own emotional response? How can we?
It's about it's about listening to yourself. And like self-talk is really good. Speaking to yourself, asking yourself those questions. Why am I feeling this way? Instead of saying that person or situation is making me angry. No, it's not. There's something inside you that needs to be addressed and healed.
Yeah.
So keep asking yourself those questions. What do I need to heal? What is within me that's making me angry? Because it's never really the external. It's all starts from within.
Yeah. And we say this, self-awareness is a big thing. And if great tools for self-awareness is self-talk. I always thought I was a bit crazy because I talk about myself in the third person, but it could be, it's self-awareness.
It's the most famous thing to do. Carl Jung speaks about it in individuation. The best way to get to know yourself is to have an open dialogue with yourself. Our unconscious mind dictates 95% of what we do, and yet it's that part of ourselves that actually has hidden a lot of our memories and traumas because it's trying to protect us. So, but when something is buried and hidden, it's like having something toxic within you. It's going to come out in unhealthy ways. So unless we address it or discover what it is, we're never going to know how to heal it. So how do you figure it out? Ask your unconscious mind those questions. Why are you feeling this way? What is hidden deep within?
And also, talking to yourself, journaling. So journaling is a great way. And you can get some really wonderful journals that have prompts and things, because sometimes we don't ask ourselves the right questions, and we get better at it. Like as training to be a coach, like we've got lots of tools. We know the sort of questions that we should ask ourselves, but still sometimes things sneak through. It's just like I was blaming time, about why I had, and it's obvious to somebody on the outside, but not so obvious to ourselves. We don't know what we don't know. We're not looking at what we're choosing not to look at. So having a coach is a great way, but using things, you can find prompts online for journaling, or getting yourself a nice journal and making it a regular practice. You will notice patterns. You will notice people that are starting to annoy you. And then you need to think about why are they annoying? What is it about that that's annoying me? And like I said at the beginning, it could be that they're crossing a boundary, but you need to be aware that if you haven't communicated your boundary, it's not really a boundary.
That's it. I mean, you're writing something like, especially the last couple of days, I've been watching some things on television and they've been triggering me. And that's a great way for me to find what's within me. And every common denominator I've been triggered on is communication, speaking your truth, using your voice, owning your part of the situation. I'm like, ooh, I wonder what I have to do here. And it's obviously obvious that I need to speak my truth and use my voice and be assertive in my situation. So that's it. Like, you can pick up on cues and elements at different times, not just with the actual person or situation. If you're getting triggered by a TV program, what part of it? What's the message there? You're getting triggered by something you're reading. what's the message here? And you get these little patterns and they show up for you, and it's so loud and clear, especially if you're going through a situation as I am at the moment. Like you just kind of, it's loud and clear. You have to do this, and you keep going back and forth, going, "What do I have to do?" It's like, yes, you have to do this. So yeah, just be very aware of those triggers, because those triggers are your biggest teachers. They will show you exactly what you need to do.
And meditation, we're both big advocates of meditation, so that's a great way to sort of give yourself some space between your thoughts and who you really are, and it helps you spot the patterns, and it helps you notice things that are repeating in your life, and then it opens up more questions to explore it. And being lots of self-care as well. We have to be compassionate to ourselves, because for us to look at why someone might be annoying us or frustrating us, we really have to look at our part in it, or what thing from our past is this stirring up that we're choosing to just ignore. Often it's not about now, it's about a similar situation that we haven't fully processed from our past.
And like what we were saying there, like, if you're frustrated with somebody, oftentimes the people you're around mirror you. Mm-hmm. So you can ask yourself, am I really frustrated with them, or am I frustrated with myself? And because they say anytime you give advice to somebody, you can always actually use that advice at the same time yourself. You're usually going through something similar. So I find that myself, like, if I'm getting angry with somebody else, I'm like, am I really angry with them, or am I angry with myself for not facing this part of me? And then that's how you can go back to your past and kind of say, why am I angry with myself? Where is the self-anger after originating? What part of my history is there that I have to address in order to relieve this anger? Because oftentimes I find that myself anyway, any kind of anger is usually self-directed, but we're actually directing it towards somebody else.
Yeah. And I mean, an example from my life that I've talked about this before is I get quite frustrated with my children not tidying up, but that's because that's the bit of me that I see in them that I don't like about myself. But instead of maybe doing it a bit better myself and modeling the behavior that I want, I get frustrated and angry with them for also not doing it.
That's your ownership thing there. It's like, when we blame the external person, it's like, no, what can you do to fix to alleviate the situation? Are you, as you said, you're frustrated with something that is mirrored back to you, so you can change your behavior in order to help change theirs.
Yeah. And let's have a look. So once we've realized, because often when we're frustrated, it's all about them, isn't it? It's like, they've done this, they've done that. It might be that they're not considerate of me, or they never do the washing up, or they never do this, or they always do that. And we often get use that language, they always, when do they always? Is it always? Is it never? Using that extreme language that isn't actually true, maybe somebody missed doing their chores one day, or maybe they've done it a couple of times in a month, but then you're jumping straight to, oh, they never do their chores, I'm always having to nag them. Really? Is it really every time? And I think we can exaggerate to ourselves how bad that person is being.
Yeah. We forget that. Yeah, we forget the good things that people do because we concentrate so much on the bad. Yeah. And I noticed that myself lately as well. Like, it's just like every good thing just goes out the window, and it's like, they did this wrong, they did this wrong, they did this wrong. And it's like, they did actually do some things right. Yeah. Why aren't we rewarding that, and why are we concentrating so much on why we're angry?
Yeah, and actually, it's an interesting thing after being in sort of bad previous relationships, and all you can remember is all the bad stuff. But actually, once you've processed the bad stuff and you've really genuinely forgiven and really let it go, you're like, actually, there was lots of good things I got out of that relationship, or there was lots of nice things that they used to do to me, for me. But when you're in that anger or annoyance, or when you haven't processed and forgiven or given empathy for their position, then all you can see is the bad stuff they're doing, you know?
So that's it. And that's even in family dynamics as well. We, especially when we have had traumatic childhood or, traumatic relationships, it is that we're healing from that, and all we can think about is that negative. And then when we get to the other side of that healing, we're like, oh my God, that was a good day. That was a nice day. And it's just like, I even triggered by thinking that. It's like, God, he was an asshole, but yes, there was some nice things he did. And, it's just, but it kind of makes you realize that, because we can be angry with ourselves for putting ourselves for, what we perceive as allowing ourselves to be in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
But in actual fact, a lot of our worst relationships helped us to learn an awful lot of things, and did help us grow. And there was some benefits out of it. Do you know what I mean? There really was. So you have to start to think that, that in a sense you are a better person because of your experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what we said was, how do we respond rather than react? So how we do that is that we create some space. So let's say, because in the moment when you're frustrated, you might not be full blown angry. Maybe you are, or upset. When that initial frustration comes in, often what we do is then we go and have a good think and rot on that thought for a bit, and it gets worse. And that's when we do get angry and really resentful. When that frustration first comes in, it's giving yourself some space and changing your state. So if you're in a heightened state, you're not going to be thinking about it logically. You're very unlikely to be able to see past your own lens, to see their intention, to see if they really are doing something wrong. And sometimes people will be doing something wrong, and yes, you will have to assert a boundary and say something, but sometimes they're not really doing anything wrong. It's just the way you're viewing what they're doing. So it's important, before you react, that you take the time and the space to make sure you're in the right frame of mind to really think about it and be aware of what's their position, what's my position.
Yeah.
So ways
that would be great. That's a really good idea for, it's really good thing to do. Like, we don't do this often enough in relationships. We get angry, we get frustrated, we blame the other person, we say things that we regret.
Yeah.
And then it's another heated argument, and then there's more shit on top of that shit. And it probably wasn't even that big a deal in the first place. Because we're in that heightened state of, that whatever, frustration,
Yeah.
we're going to make the situation worse. Yeah. So, like, what we should always do in a situation when you're having about to have an argument, or you're getting angry, is say, hold on now a second. I'm feeling triggered here. I'm going to sit with myself for a minute. I'm going to ask myself why I'm being triggered, because my trigger is my own.
Yeah.
Go and deal with that, calm yourself down, and then come back and have a rational conversation about it.
Yeah.
We should all be doing that. That would make our lives so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's recognizing, that's the first step. Recognizing I'm frustrated or I'm triggered. Some people don't use the language triggered. People might not, it might not particularly be in their vocabulary. But frustrated is, I'm feeling, you're feeling frustrated. I'm getting frustrated with this. Sometimes you feel maybe you are trying to assert a boundary, and you feel like the other person is just not hearing what you're saying. And that's the point where we can lose it and we can react in that moment. So what we need to do is recognize that we're frustrated or triggered, and you can communicate that, if you're able, with the other person. That's a great thing to do. Say, I need some space. I'm feeling a bit frustrated, or I'm feeling triggered, and I'm going to come back and speak about this when I'm in a better place to do that. Or you might even notice that somebody else is frustrated and say, actually, I don't think this conversation is the best time. I think we both need a bit of space. That's a great thing to do. But sometimes we're so instantly frustrated and triggered that we're not able to even communicate that well,
Yeah.
So if you're not able to, it's okay to just walk away for a minute, recognize I'm frustrated and I'm triggered. That's step one. And then you decide, am I able to say I'm frustrated and I need some space, or is that not even going to come out well? And if it's not, it's okay to just walk away, because you can explain it to them later.
Yeah.
That's not that's not condoning silent treatment.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And if they ask you, you know, oh, why, where are you going, or why are you walking away, then I would advise you to say, I'm just feeling cross and I just need a few
Yeah, just
minutes. Yeah.
give me a minute, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
get angry with you, so let me deal with this and I'll be back.
Yeah. So it's making sure that you create space, and create space that is from when it's a person on, it literally means create space. You know, create space between you and them so that you can go and change your state. So you're not in this heightened state, and you can think about how to respond uh, in a better way than what you would have done had you not given yourself the space. Other ways to create space is breathing. That's a great one. So box breathing. So that's when we do in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, in for 4, out for, like a box. You imagine a box. Or belly breaths can be very calming. So often when we breathe from just in the top half, but it's very calming to the nervous system if you fill your lungs really deep, it sort of into your belly, and hold. And long out breaths are also really good for bringing down your blood pressure and stuff. So controlling your breathing is a really great tool for taking the passion out of the moment, if you see what I mean. You know, resetting yourself. So if you're not able to physically walk away, breathing is a great tool. Yeah. Other tools, meditation, but that's obviously not, you could, well, I suppose you could go, right, I'm doing a 40-minute meditation. I'll be back in an
Even 5 minutes, 10 minutes visualization or meditation will help you center yourself and come back to the moment. So literally, if you need to do that and say, here, look, I'm going to meditate on this for 5 minutes, give me a moment.
meditate
Yeah.
so that I'm able to respond.
Yeah,
If you've got
exactly.
good communication like that and understanding. But yeah, like we say, it doesn't have to be a 40-minute meditation. So anything that's creative is really good. Or things that keep you busy, but yeah, things like that's actively keeping you busy, but that doesn't take an awful lot of thought, or being creative. So things like gardening or drawing or sketching or colouring, all those things are really great for resetting your body so that you're able to think clearly. Because remember, when we're triggered or angry or frustrated, we might not be in the right part of our brain to be able to problem solve and to see things from other people's points of view. And really what we all want is a resolution in those situations. And what we can do if we react is make it even harder to come to a resolution. Because what we tend to do is blame. Yeah. And then we play
like
the game.
I find that myself. Like I have a very triggered morning. Like most days, I'm going to go through a bit of healing anyway, and I'll be going through introspection. And the morning will be very heightened for me. But the minute I start cooking my dinner, and I go into that kind of meditative state when I cook my dinner, and I start to have those introspections and that talk with myself while I'm in that kind of zen state while I'm cooking. After dinner, I'm fine. It's like the morning didn't even happen because I'm after working it through, because I worked it through in that kind of, in that calm sense, or in that calm kind of energy. And it is really helpful just to do that, like just to do something that relaxes your mind, that can help you get in, and I do it in silence as well. Or even listening to a bit of music can help as well. Even doing that bit of cleaning and listening to that bit of music, but asking yourself the questions as you go along, it can be really helpful to kind of just to recenter yourself, because as I said, my mornings can be really triggering, but once I get to the afternoon and get to that meditative state in the afternoon, I'm fine in the evenings,
Yeah. So we've got breathing, some kind of meditation, mindfulness, so getting into your senses or into your body in some way. So that could be thinking about things, so many things you can see, hear, smell, all of that, or doing some kind of body scan where you're just being really concentrating on the feelings in your head and then in your shoulders, and that can center you as well. Sometimes we're frustrated, but it's not heightened frustration. We're not in the situation, or we might not be in front of them. So we might get an email and we're like being asked to do something again that we don't think is okay, or the tone of an email we might not like. Now, we've talked about this before. We've got to be very careful with text messages and emails, because we can colour that with how we're feeling and what we think about that person. We can read it very differently to perhaps how it was intended. So we've got to be very careful about, if you're not sure, go and speak to them when you're in a calm state.
Exactly.
But sometimes we can just have like this long-term frustration with people, like this person never does this person never does that, but it's never at the point where you're in you're having an argument. And the reason, well, what would happen is eventually, and it happens in relationships, and I think it's happened, happens with my kid's dad, is that you ignore it and you ignore it and you ignore it and you ignore it and you ignore it, and then you just can't ignore it anymore. So it's recognizing that even mild frustration is trying to tell you something, isn't it? And not to let it go and go and go, because it will stack up. So a good way to notice frustrations generally in your life that you might need to look at is, like we say, the journaling and self-talk. Yeah.